Windy, I want to start with you. What's your reaction to what PK had to say covering the NBA all these years?
I don't know enough about the NHL to really be able to take a hard position on this. However, I do know about the culture of NHL teams, and I agree they're completely different from the NBA. The sports are so vastly different. The way the game is played, because there's so much substitution in hockey where the top players are only on the ice for, correct me if I'm wrong, PK, I'm out of my depth. They're on the ice for 15 or 18 minutes a game, whereas the top NBA players are on the court for 40 minutes. The nature of the games are different. So when you're out there, you know, you're playing to exhaustion in hockey and you come off. The sports are extremely different. I don't even know how you could compare them. I would say that there is a situation in the NBA right now where there isn't enough emphasis put on the everyday, and that's by the players, that's by the fans, that's by the media. We don't celebrate, in my opinion, enough of the everyday accomplishments, of the great things that happen on a day-to-day basis in February. And that is, I think, a cultural issue, and I can't really compare that to the NHL, but standing alone, the NBA does need to address that. It's a tough situation for me because I don't know how to compare them, but I do generally agree the NBA has some culture challenges. I just don't know if mimicking hockey solves them.
Yeah, Wendy, I'm with you. I think the overall investment that the top players are willing to make throughout the regular season, especially in a platform like All-Star Weekend, is different than what we're seeing with NHL players in the Four Nations Face-Off, which has been a huge success. And I guess that's my biggest problem, because when I came into the NFL, and it's not all dissimilar from players that came into the NBA, but I was told by my veteran players, leave the game in better shape than you found it. And that comes along with an obligation to take advantage of every opportunity to grow the game, to grow the fan base. And that includes what you do in the regular season. And, of course, what you do when the entire sports world is focusing on the celebration of the game, which is All-Star Weekend. And the fact that the festivities around All-Star Weekend have fallen so flat, where the NBA is in this constant posture of having to change and tweak the format in order to get the players to be more engaged, is an indictment on the culture that the players have let lax when it comes to their participation in those festivities.
Stephen A?
No,
Yep.
PK, go ahead.
Well,
PK.
yeah, sorry, guys. And just so that you know, I'm having some static with my earpiece, so that's
It's all right.
for the delay.
Okay.
But I did hear what everybody had to say, and I will say this. To me, it's offensive. As you guys saw in Get Up, obviously I was emotional about speaking because I'm speaking on behalf of the players, right? As a newly removed athlete out of the sport. And to me, it's offensive to the approach, to my approach to the game, but also the players that I know, that I was around, that I idolized. It's offensive to the way that they approached the game. And in this sport, in hockey, you can't approach the game any other way because you will get hurt. It's not an option to go out and compete. It's not an option to be willing to fight. You have to do those things in our sport, and you have to do those every night. Now, the question is, why isn't that demand on the NBA players every night? I mean, that's a question I can't ask, because here's the reality. Does it come down to rule changes and what the NBA wants to do to protect themselves? No. I don't even give them that out. I'll go back to this. You know, obviously we know about Wilt Chamberlain and some of the guys that started earlier on before my time. But to me, the NBA took off with Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. They set the tone for Michael Jordan, then ultimately Kobe Bryant, then LeBron, Steph, KD, and all those guys now. But Larry Bird and Magic Johnson carved the path for Kobe, for Jordan, for LeBron. So for this generation now, my question is, are you carving a better path? Are you leaving a better league for the future of the NBA, or are you not? And that's why I'm all in on hockey. Because these guys, year after year, decade after decade, it's been a slow process in growing the game. Yes, it's not growing, it didn't grow as fast as we wanted to get to this point. But why is that? Because the team aspect. No one's bigger than the game. And I've had to, coming into hockey, being a guy who has personality, different interests, I was up against that. But that's a strong part of the culture we don't want to change. And we might be the strongest in all the sports with the team aspect. But now what we're seeing is it all on this platform now. So for the NBA, my question is for those players, are you leaving a better league than what you came into? Because I'll tell you something, for KD, for LeBron, Steph, all the money that they're making came on the backs of Magic Johnson, of Larry Bird, of Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, all these guys. So, you got to keep that in mind. How we value greatness. It's not just about rings, and it's not just about on the court. As an athlete, yeah, I value those things. But the reason why I followed Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant was because of their approach to their craft. They never took a day off. They left it all on the court. It didn't matter whether it was an exhibition game or a playoff game. I don't know. That's the standard of greatness for me in every sport. So when I see players doing it that don't have the talent, maybe aren't superstars, I'm willing to pay for that. But here's the thing about hockey. We got the stars. And guess what? They're on the ice. They're giving everything they have every night, no matter what we're doing. So that's got to be the standard for greatness across sports for me.
Wendy, I was very disappointed in your response. I felt it was a bit timid. I'm not going to be timid.
Hold on.
The stars of the NBA, because that's who we're talking about here, have messed the reputation of the game up. It's not because of their ability. It's not because they don't play hard. It's because the slightest frustration, whether it emanates from the league, from the team, from collective bargaining negotiations, from fans on social media, don't hide their frustration well enough, along with their ability to take it out on the paying customer at their discretion. That's the real story here. Put everybody up on the screen so I can see them when I'm talking. That's the real discretion. That's the real discretion here. The fact of the matter is, when you're in the NFL, you play, you could be up out of there if you don't. You're in hockey, like PK said, you got to come to fight. You're in the National Basketball Association. The money that's guaranteed and all of that stuff, money's earned. Those brothers have the ability, they've earned it, they bring it to the table. Their skill set, ain't nobody trying to hurt their pockets. I'm saying the opposite. Because your pocket isn't hurt, and you know that, instead of having a strong level of appreciation for the lofty position you have clearly earned, on far too many occasions, it has been used as an opportunity to snub your nose and give the proverbial middle finger to the league, to fans, etc., at your discretion. I'm only talking about the stars, and I'm not talking about all of them. They know who they are. I won't mention their names. The things that they do, the manner in which they do it, because evidently we live in a society where we lament the fact that we don't have the power that we wish we had. And then players get it, and one of the first things they do is abuse it by showing, you can't get me now. Now I can do what I want. And then what happens is the owners turn around and the league turns around and they make sure that there's collateral damage. And there's a rippling effect that may not affect you, but it's going to affect future generations to come, because God forbid we give that power to others in the future because they watched you abuse it. That is what goes on in the sport of basketball that we don't talk enough about. I'm sitting up here, Chris Canty, Wendy, I'm on First Take. This is my show. Me and Molly. This is what we do, okay? There's a lot of things people think I can get away with. I wouldn't know. You know why? Because I don't dare think about it. Why do I not dare think about it? Because if I get away with it, then all of a sudden, somebody else coming up the pike is going to be in a position where they're compromised, because the company will be like, God forbid we put somebody else in that position of power, because we don't want to be abused and we don't want to be taken advantage of. Magic Johnson thought about that. Michael Jordan thought about that. Kobe thought about that. Others have not, especially from this generation of players. So when we're talking about what PK said, what Wendy alluded to, what you articulated, CC, to encapsulate the entire discussion, it's about individuals who bust their tail and earned the right to be in a privileged position, then got it, and forgot about those on the come up
Yep.
and the damage that they would inevitably do to those folks because of the way they wanted to act in the moment. Short-sightedness. That is what we're talking about.
Yeah, Stephen A., I want to let Windy respond to you because you're a little bit critical of his comments. We have PK back, and PK dealing with some technical difficulties on the ice, so I don't know if you were able to hear everything. PK, we'll come to you after. Windy?
Okay.
Well, we're talking about two different things. Stephen A. is talking about NBA player entitlement, which entitlement and power, two different things. PK was talking about NHL players compared with NBA players. So if I'm going to address exactly what you said, Stephen A., that's what I'm going to do. In basketball, the basketball star is a bigger power base than any other sport that we have. Even the quarterback doesn't play the entire game at both ends of the court. So there's no question that the star NBA player enjoys a power that they are just learning in the last 7 to 10 years that they actually can leverage. And I would agree with you. I think that a realization came a little faster than the responsibility of what that means. Also, it's come along with incredible growth in salary. If you look at the growth in the maximum contracts from the year 2000 to the year 2016, it wasn't that great. There was only one. Michael Jordan made $30 million in the 90s. There was only one other player through 2016 who made $30 million in a season. That was Kobe. 1 year. Since 2016, we've got 30, 40, 50 guys making $30 million in a year. There's guys under contract right now that are going to make $70 million a year on these contracts. So you are looking at a sudden awakening of the power that they have, combined with an enormous amount of increased money. And it all happened so fast that I'm not so sure that the league was ready for it. And we're grappling with that in various ways now. So I think you have a point, Stephen A., but I think it happened so fast it was hard to get everyone's arms around it.
Go ahead, PK.
Well, listen, I hear everybody's point, and I think in terms of the money, you're probably right. There is a lot of money. But once again, I ask the question, what are you playing for? Like, if you're really about it, if you're really about sports, then you're about two things, your teammates and the fans. And I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how much money you're making. When you do not show up to play, you're letting your teammates down. When you do not show up to play, you're letting the fans down that are paying you 40, 50, 60 million. I don't care if you're getting 300 million. Congratulations. But these people in here are paying $2,500 a ticket, $5,000, that are blue-collared, hard-working people. If you don't get your head wrapped around that, you shouldn't be in pro sports. Because how are we going to grow? How do we expect you to be an example? Well, guess what? You don't want to be? You are one. You're on the biggest stage. You just said it. They make the most money. You're an example. You got to show up.